Good evening, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Faheem Bangash, watching Newsroom on PTV World. Now, today we'll be discussing some very important and interesting issues. Our first segment would be about the economy of Pakistan. As we know that Federal Minister for Finance and Revenue, Ishaq Dar, has said that there is no chance that Pakistan will default. Also, he said the conditions are tight, but Pakistan will definitely move forward. Also, he mentioned that he admits that we don't enjoy the same level of foreign exchange reserves that was about $24 billion back in 2016. But he also mentioned that US dollars are being smuggled and to a neighboring country. And he said that we are importing wheat, which is also being smuggled. And also he mentioned fertilizer, which is being heavily subsidized in the country. Also, he said that we have completed the IMF commitments as well pertaining to the petroleum development levy made by the previous government. And also he was quite empathetic towards people and said that 80% of the people cannot afford the continuous increase in the petroleum prices. That would be our first segment. And our second segment today would be about the ban on the education of women in Afghanistan. That's quite a stir discussions that we're witnessing on every news channel here and there, both on national and international television, because what Afghanistan has done, it has cut off half of its population from working, from studying, from acquiring education, which is quite a tragedy as far as Afghanistan is concerned. And the United Nations Security Council has called for full, equal and meaningful participation of women and girls in Afghanistan and has totally denounced the ban. This is going to be our second segment, and towards the end of the program we have a news item which is quite interesting, as we know that energy is the need of the hour these days, and Prime Minister Mia Mohammed Shehbaz Sharif has said that has taken a very good initiative and has said by in 2023 we're going to solarize all the government buildings, and this is going to start from the top and slowly and gradually this is going to be taken to lower levels as well, so that we can save power as much as possible. That is the decision taken by Prime Minister Mia Mohammed Nawaz Sharif. And now, starting off with the program, of course, our team has prepared a little report as far as the first segment is concerned, the economy is concerned. Let's take a look at that.
Pakistan's economy is facing strong headwinds, bowing to multidimensional internal and external crises, such political instability, fallout of Ukraine conflict, climate ravages and global economic recession. Global ratings agency S&P Global has cut Pakistan's long-term sovereign credit rating by one notch to CCC+ from B to reflect a continued weakening of the country's external, fiscal and economic metrics. In its annual report on the state of Pakistan's economy, Central Bank has lowered its projected GDP growth from previously announced range of 3 to 4% for current fiscal year, citing flood-induced destruction. Report noted that delay in resumption of the IMF program and political instability exacerbated the country's vulnerability through the depletion of foreign exchange reserves. Amid widespread speculation over Pakistan's ability to meet its growing debt obligations, Federal Minister for Finance and Revenue Ishaq Dar reiterated that there is no chance that Pakistan will default. Finance Minister urged the country's business leaders to participate in curbing ongoing negative propaganda pertaining to Pakistan's economy. The government remains steadfast in improving economic conditions, but propaganda has created fear amongst masses, resulting in volatility in the currency and gold markets. Pakistan is projected to become the 18th largest economy in the world by 2030, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Now, that was a report prepared by our team. And now to talk about this, we have on Skype with us Mohammed Adnan Jalil from the FPCCI. Adnan sir, welcome to PTV World. Right, can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you. Oh, okay.
Lovely.
Can you hear me
lovely.
now?
Yes,
Okay, lovely.
we definitely
Thank you
can.
for having me around.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Now, first of all, my first question to you would be, you see, we have a combination of adverse global and domestic developments which led to the re-emergence of macroeconomic imbalances now during the fiscal year 2022. Now, what exactly are those developments which interrupted the economic activity during the fiscal year 2022? Can you shed some light on that?
Okay, the first one is the political instability. When the country is facing a huge political instability, obviously the investment will not come and the investment is shy to come, whether it's a domestic or it's the FDIs. So this is one reason. The secondly is obviously the Ukraine war and the COVID. This has impacted upon it. So I think 22 was not a very good year for Pakistan. 23 will not be something very different, but I think some kind of a stability will be there when it comes to the macro side of the economy. And we do hope that the political stability should be there, and on top, there should be investment, there should be stability of the rupees. I mean, because funds should not devalue further. And now the good news is this, the government has allowed on certain things, the LCs from the 2nd of July 2023, that will be a good sentiments in the market. You will
Right.
see a better trend in the stock market also, and that will bring confidence back into the business community of the country.
Also, according to the statements of Mr. Ishaq Dar, he said the debt to GDP ratio, he gave the example of the US and the UK, which according to figures, he said it's 110% in the US and 101% in the UK, but he said that nobody over there says that, mentions a debt trap, whereas in Pakistan we hear that term a lot. But don't you think Pakistan has a lot more challenges, and should Pakistan be compared to the US and the UK at all?
Well, Pakistan has faced a lot of challenges, and Pakistan will gonna face a lot of challenges in the past since independence, and is going to be there till for many years to come, because our economy has never been on a long-term vision. It's never been a stable economy because our
Right.
policies were being made on a ad hoc basis. So I think Pakistan on the default, I personally think, and the business community personally think, Pakistan is not on that verge of becoming a default, because if you look upon the ratio which we owe to the world, 30% of our liabilities we owe to China, and 20% we owe to Saudi Arabia, and they are a friendly countries. If we owe them 50% of our total bad debts. So I think these friendly countries will not be there and will always be there to reschedule our because it will not be in their interest, it will not be in the interest of the global community, because Pakistan geographically is located in such a area where Pakistan will be in need today, tomorrow, or maybe in the future.
Also, Adnan Sab, Ishaq Dar mentioned quite categorically that the economy of our country needs to be defended, just like the country is being defended overall. The borders of the country are being defended. The marine frontiers are being defended. The economy needs to be defended just like that. And also, he said that there are basically three reasons for worsening of the economy. The first being the smuggling of the US dollar. Then he mentioned the import of wheat and a partial subsidy on that. And also he mentioned the import of fertilizer and very heavy subsidy. Do you think that if we remove the subsidies, don't you think that's going to create a lot of burden for the common man? And also, Pakistan being the agro-based economy, don't you think that's going to create a lot of burden?
Well, the burden is already there on the people of Pakistan. If you look into the
True.
inflation factors, so if you're going to remove the subsidies, hello, can you hear me, Jay? Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, please continue.
Okay, okay. The burden is already there on the people of this country, because if you look into the inflation is very high, and the earning per capita is very low. So I think it's there. If you're going to remove the subsidy, that's going to put a lot of burden on the people of this country. But what other option do we have if we keep on giving the subsidies? On the other side, where I live in Peshawar, the spread between the hard currencies and the dollar and pounds and euros is about 30 rupees, and most of the money is heading off to Afghanistan, because we are fulfilling their needs. So this is one problem. We have to curtail this smuggling, and that has to be channeled in such a manner that the rupee should be stability, should have their stability, and the pressure should be reduced to some extent. So I think eventually as you are in the IMF program, you have to knock down all the subsidies eventually. You're going to do it today, tomorrow, but you have to do it eventually. And this is the best thing that, and agro-bait, I don't think so. Pakistan has become an agro country. We do import a lot of things from we used to be agro-based, but we import a lot of agro products from abroad. So I think we have to have our definition right where we would like to be, whether we want to have agro, then we should not destroy our fertile line into the housing scheme. So I think Pakistan has to think, and the people of the government of the has to think where we have to be today, tomorrow, and for our upcoming generations. So I think we have to look upon on the smuggling side, the subsidy side, and obviously we need to, as the foreign minister has categorically said, that this time we will fulfill our commitment to the IMF and we will sort it out. So I think there will be more inflation factor will come, because once you're going to go back to the IMF, they have their conditionalities to put more taxes, 50 rupees more or less on the petrol levy, and the more taxation. So I think the inflation, it will be very difficult to, under the circumstances in which Pakistan is, it will be very difficult to control the inflation. I think the next year is going to be a very tough year for Pakistan.
Also, as far as inflationary pressures are concerned, we also heard Ishaq Dar mentioning and giving the example of Turkey that the inflation over there was about 60%, yet as far as the policy rate now is concerned, he said the policy rate, they maintained it at 9%, whereas in Pakistan, that's gone a soaring high of 16%. Now, do you think any tactic can be made or any steps can be taken in order to decrease that, despite inflationary pressure?
I think if you have Turkey is a very tourism country, and most of the money is coming from their tourism sector. I think it's a very developed tourism country, and you know, so a lot of tourism is going from Pakistan to Turkey every day. Nearly 400 people are visiting that country. So I think, and secondly, their exports are good, even if they have the inflation. So it's a welfare country. At least you get a very good education, you get a very good health, housing, and everything. Unfortunately, Pakistan is not a social welfare country. So any inflation and any increase on the base rate will put a lot of pressure on the people of this country and the business community. So, I mean, if now the IMF have demanded to increase 2 points more the base rate, so if it goes up to, let's say, 18 or 19, so just imagine what will be the spread the bank going to have is 5-6%. So I think the 24-25% will be the borrowing rate. So that's going to halt a lot of business which is taking place in the country is going to create a lot of problem. I think the money which we owe to the world, I think it's up to the people of Pakistan that we should pay our taxes very honestly, very dedicatedly. So the petty, and for the government, a message from the business community is, please curtail your expenses, reorganize yourself, modernize yourself, and don't go into like the federal government or the provincial government. They have a very complex and very huge bureaucratic system that need to be reshuffled, that need to be simplified in such a manner that the cost should be reduced. Secondly, we have to dig more, because in Kohat and Karak, there's a lot of probabilities of having oil and gas. I think we need to look at that avenues also.
Well, definitely. Now, also, I would like to mention something here. According to figures given by, projected by the PricewaterhouseCoopers company and the firm, that Pakistan is to become the 18th largest economy. Now, first of all, what do you think are the reasons or the rationale behind giving this projection, this figure exact, as far as Pakistan is concerned, by the year 2030? And if at all we tend to go about it, what trajectory do you think the economy of Pakistan is to follow?
You know, in which the situation, the economic situation in which Pakistan is not going to be there for long. I think eventually it might take a year or two that we'll be out of this crisis, because it has been multiplying by the flood, by the COVID, by the Ukraine war, and the political system we have here, unfortunately. So I think this thing it will gonna take a couple of more years for the Pakistan to get settled and get on the track. Pakistan is a beautiful country. It has a lot of potential when it comes to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The tourism is there. Then if you come to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, there is a capacity of 45,000 hydropower sector. Then if you go to other parts of the country, there's a lot of potential. I think Pakistan need to sit, and the government need to sit and think very positively that how we have to market. The record deck is such a big asset we have. If you, I
True.
mean, that's we're talking about billions and billions of dollars. If we when you sell it in a proper market and we get our share rightly without any corruption and without any thing, so I think that that can make a lot of difference, and we'll be able to pay back our all liability. The first thing is this, that although we are in the IMF, this is my sentiments. I mean, I'm not talking about it, that the first thing we have to do is to gather the money in such a manner that we should get rid of IMF, because this is $3.88 billion is causing a lot of problem for the economy, because their conditionalities are very tough. And when the and government, I mean the sitting government or maybe the upcoming government will face a lot of music. So I think we have to pay our taxes in a right manner, and we should. This is our responsibility. I have already explained the government responsibility, and then our first thing should be that we should clean our account with the IMF, and then we should be on a free road. And because the one conditionality with the IMF has put on us then was the free float of the rupees, and I think Pakistan economy is not there to sustain that thing, because if free float is for the strong economy, and we are not a strong economy. So I think this is one thing, that rupees has to become under the control of the state bank, and that should not be devalued so much, because every rupee is devalued, that brings a lot of trouble to the paybacks which we have to do, and the imports. And although it does give you some benefit of the export, but I think that Pakistan is a dollar-based economy, so that do create a lot of hurdles, even if you lose by 1 rupees.
Also, Adnan Saab, Ishaq Dar did mention that due to malicious and malignant propaganda, people have been panic buying gold and panic buying dollars, which has, of course, created a shortage in the market. So how vigilant do you think our law enforcement agencies should be, and how do you think the smuggling of the dollars and the panic buying could be stopped? Should we create more awareness campaigns? Because Ishaq Dar also gave a reference to the past as well, that this did happen in the past as well.
Well, I mean, the government need to be vigilant, the custom need to be vigilant, but you can't do much unless the people of this country have their inner souls thinking about this country. Like,
right.
We have to take care of this country, for us, for our upcoming generation. Unless you can't do it by force. I mean, whatever the media campaigns you can bring, unless your inner soul is not awake and you're not thinking about this country, you can't do much, because it's always a collectively you have to do it. The government has to market many things, and you have to think positively about your country. I remember when I used to live in London, there was a shortage of water. And for 3 months, for 15 days, they stopped the sprinkles, the car washing, the gardening, everything. The temperature rose up to 32 degrees. And believe me, they were so worried about it that once I started putting the water on my plants, and the lady came to me and said that, don't you understand, it's the £5,000 penalty. So I think the neighborhood watch, the sensibility has to be there, should be there in us, that we should take care of this beautiful country in which we are living. Unless, I don't think that if we are not going to change ourselves, our habits, our mindset, I think not much can be done.
So I think, yes, you're right. It's a collective effort. Everybody has to go together with it. Now, also, Adnan Saab, in a key development, the State Bank of Pakistan has decided to withdraw the restrictions placed on the imports. Also, the SBP has asked banks to prioritize and facilitate imports related to most essential items as well. Now, how do you think, and how was the response of the market and the business leaders as far as this decision of the SBP is concerned?
I think the FBI has taken it very cordially, and I think from the 2nd of Jan next year, when this thing will be implemented, it's not been implemented on a vast scale. It's been implemented on few items, I think 85, 87, if I'm not wrong. So I think that can, as I said earlier, it's going to give a good sentiment and to the stock market, and maybe there will be sentiment on the rupees, because we have totally stopped the flow of the dollars out of Pakistan, and all the airlines who are operating here, we owe them $2 billion above. So I think we have to pay them back to their like head offices. So I think that's going to bring a good sentiment, and I hope that very soon and sooner or later that situation start getting better, and our business community should feel the confident in the government and our because whatever you produce, whether it's for the domestic market or it's for the export, averagely 40% has to be imported. So I mean, if
Right.
you're not going to import the essential things and things, then how can you accommodate your domestic market or the export? So I think you have very little choice. Eventually, the government has to open all the LCs and all the equipments and all the things which are still on the grey list.
Right, Adnan Saab, thank you very much for giving us your time. Thank you very much for being with us. This was Mohammed Adnan Jalil Saab from the FPCCI, also economics expert, who was talking to us regarding the economy of Pakistan and regarding the statements made by Minister for Finance and Revenue, Ishaq Dar. Now, we will be back with our second segment, but after a short break. You stay tuned with PTV World.
Join us to see how regional connectivity is shaping the future. Perspectives and much more on our new show, Game Changer. What shapes the world today?
Is that politics?
Or mutual interest?
Nations or the regions?
Game Changer will explore the potential.
Prosperity, sustainability, socio-economic development and global connectivity.
Be with us
And witness how the game changes.
Welcome back to Newsroom. I'm Faheem Bangash. Now, the team of Newsroom has prepared a package for our second segment. Let's take a look at that and then we follow.
By serious humanitarian crisis which requires interim Afghan government to honor its international commitments. International community made the right to education for all women a sticking point in negotiations over aid and recognition of the Taliban regime. Despite promising a softer rule when the ascend to power last year, the Taliban have ratcheted up restrictions on all aspects of women's lives, ignoring international outrage. After the takeover of the country by Taliban, universities were forced to implement new rules including gender-segregated classrooms and entrances, while women were only permitted to be taught by women professors or older men. Afghanistan's Taliban rulers banned university education for females nationwide as the hardline circles continue to crush women's right to education education and freedom. The Taliban in March blocked girls from returning to secondary schools, and several Taliban officials assured that secondary education ban is only temporary. Afghanistan's Taliban-run administration has ordered all local and foreign non-governmental organizations to stop female employees from coming to work. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken expressed deep concern over the move and stated that move will disrupt vital and life-saving assistance to millions. Women are central to humanitarian operations around the world, and participation of women in humanitarian action is a fundamental principle which cannot be breached.
Welcome back. Now, to talk more about this, we have been joined by Dr. Farah, foreign affairs expert on Skype. Dr. Farah, welcome to PTV World.
Thank you.
Dr. Farah, this order which has been passed by the authorities in the Taliban government, they are barring women basically, and also not letting them work as well. Now, we know that the United Nations agencies, they have a very large presence in Afghanistan. Now, how would this basically impact the delivery of the services to the whole of the Afghan population?
I think this is going to affect the entire system there, which is already put in place. Here, the issue is not only banning women from joining these non-governmental organizations, but also from seeking education as well. I have written a piece on this in the newspaper today, and in that I highlighted that probably the Taliban, they are thinking that maybe, this is what I'm assuming at this stage, that they may think that and in the garb of these NGOs, maybe some other groups from outside, they are misusing their women and kind of utilizing them for achieving their agenda. But altogether banning them from work and from seeking education, I think this is not something that is appropriate at this level, where the country is facing extreme humanitarian crisis, where help and support from all countries outside, it is really expected. So how it's going to work out for the general Afghan people if at one hand they are asking for help, on the other side they are refusing because they don't allow their women. So it's a complete complex situation at this stage happening in Afghanistan. I would also like through your
Please continue.
Yeah, so through your program, I would also like to draw the attention of the world towards that. I was really sad and I was not able to accept this entire thing when the announcement came from the Kabul government that they are not going to allow women and girls to continue with their education. I think this was a very bizarre kind of act coming up. But at that time, there was just one thing coming to my mind, that since all of us, we forgot completely about Afghans, Taliban, women, and all the issues that were there. But suddenly with this decision, once again, they are all over the media. Let it be the regional media or the international media. So if the intention was to bring the attention of the world back towards Afghanistan and its people, and then push them, pressurize them towards achieving certain objectives, I think this was very, very weird and bizarre act, because they have no right to affect the life of a woman folk, which is half of the Afghans population, not to let them enjoy the rights that happens to be their basic fundamental rights. So I was really upset with everything that was happening.
Also, Dr. Saiba, you very rightly mentioned this is like half of the population that they're depriving of education and work as well. Many of the women, the government jobs have been taken from them and they've been made to sit at home. Also, do you think this time was right, or what were they actually thinking before passing such a judgment in front, so blatantly in front of all the world, where every media outlet, I think, has covered this decision of theirs, which is, you very rightly mentioned, that quite bizarre and quite shocking to not just us but the rest of the world as well. Not to forget that the winters are very harsh in Afghanistan. Not to forget that more than 90% of Afghani population lives in poverty, where they need humanitarian aid, where they need assistance, where people need to go out and earn a livelihood for themselves and for their families. Many of the women who were actually the breadwinners of their families have been made to sit at home. Now, what future do you see now?
I think, like as you mentioned, was this the right time? I think for any such decision, this is not the right time to make it. Where Taliban are struggling to be recognized in the world as a state and a government. Yeah, so they are everybody except Afghanistan, but the leadership yet have to prove themselves. So with such kind of shocking statements, they can achieve just one thing, seeking the attention of the international media, local, regional media. Yes, the mission is accomplished. So if they really want to use women as a tool, as I often quote that in this world and in this age, the tools of the conflict, the tools of the war have changed now. In the hybrid warfare age, sanctions are used as a tool, economic warfare is used as a tool, media warfare is used as a tool. But if Taliban are trying to be smart enough and using, you know, giving empowerment to the women and taking that empowerment back from the women as a tool, this is not acceptable. We can to certain extent agree with the economic sanctions, with the media warfare and everything, but utilizing the life of an ordinary Afghan woman for achieving their political objectives, I think the world will not let it happen, and it is not acceptable at first place. I was the one who was always saying that probably Taliban needs some times to get established and to you know to form their governance mechanism put in place. But I think this is long term. Now it's more than 1.5 years, and by now the Taliban should be able to come up with certain mechanism where they should know how to give the due share to women in the politics, in the governance, in the education sector and all. And in all of this, we should not forget education is the basic right of each individual, irrespective if it is an Afghan girl, an Iranian girl, a Pakistani girl, or a Saudi girl. We all, Muslim or non-Muslim, this is our right to get education. And Taliban cannot deny Afghan girls their basic right to get an education.
Because all over the world, like you said, it's totally unacceptable, be it Ned Price, be it Antony Blinken, be it Malala Yousafzai, be it our Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Everybody has been saying that they should revisit their decision, they should reconsider. And also, a very interesting point is that in the top echelons of the Afghan government, there seems to be a part of the government which is against this decision of excluding women totally, 100%, from every decision making and from education, from the jobs and from everything. Now, do you think that this is going to exacerbate the differences between the top echelons of the government?
I think it is going to have lots of problems for the Taliban leadership. If they are hoping for and aiming for forming a government based on their own male dominant society, they cannot achieve the larger goals of any government mechanism. If they really want to make Afghanistan and see Afghanistan as a prosperous country, first they have to accept women as equal to men. And here I would like to draw attention towards the logic that they provide is probably they are coming up with some kind of Sharia explanation that it is not acceptable in the Sharia. So they have to learn from Saudi Arabia. And I think when you were mentioning the key leaders who really condemn their decision, Saudis will also condemn their decisions. They have to learn from them that the way they are now evolving and they're coming up with several rights for women and giving them equal status, equally at par with men. I think Taliban need to revisit their policy. And they also need to see what kind of impact it will have in the future, where they can't see only men running the entire show. It's not going to happen. They definitely need women.
Right.
They definitely
right, Dr. Farah. Dr. Farah, thank you very much for being with us. And this is all the time that we have for right now. You take care, keep watching PTV World, and see you tomorrow.